Hello, Ivy here. Today's podcast is called The Demise of the UK Monarchy and its Rota clowns. In my opinion, the antics of all the key players in the psychological abuse of the Sussexes, and for the most part of the last 4 years of Meghan, will go down in history. That the UK collectively lost its mind post-2016. The referendum result to leave the European Union was the beginning of the slide down a slippery slope. Extreme groups within the country always existed, but over the last 4 years plus, they have been given an environment to openly display their views. I don't know what planet the royal family and the media friends were living on when they thought that 4 years of abuse would not result in the Sussexes leaving the UK. The key players have all been complicit in convincing certain areas of the population that Britain does not need certain types of people in its establishment zones, and others are acceptable if they are prepared to do the tasks that English people are not that keen to do. And for those in what is deemed to be middle-class categories and are people of colour, they are apparently supposed to feel grateful for being allowed to mix in those types of circles and be content with any upward movement within those zones be dependent upon people of the right shade allowing it to happen. Those right at the top are there simply because their parents belonged to the aristocracy already, and their entry into the world caused no ripples as long as they hooked up with others in the fraternity. No problem if the partnerships had an age range wider than the Mersey Tunnel, as long as it was white money marrying white money. The royal family is deemed to be the poster family of the aristocracy in the UK. A family with the origins of the British royal family would have struggled to hold that position without a name change to focus attention away from their unpopular at the time heritage, and if they had not been white. Having a person of colour within its ranks was clearly not welcome, but in an effort to appear inclusive, on the face of things, the official line was that the soon-to-be wife of Prince Harry was welcomed into the family. Prince Harry would have married her anyway, and they did not want to lose him. It has been clear that efforts were made behind the scenes to destroy Meghan, and therefore prevent the marriage from taking place, and if that failed, destroy her post-marriage. None of them thought that the Sussexes would say no to abuse and promptly leave the UK. To anyone with a reasonable intellect and vision, in the words of a song from my younger years, from the group Faithless, who stated, "You don't need eyes to see, you need vision." The torrent of planned and carefully constructed acts of abuse against Meghan, and now rubber-stamping it with the acts of punishment of Prince Harry for daring to leave the slavery regime of an opulent setting, will prove to be the movement that lit the touch paper of the demise of the UK monarchy. As I have stated many times, the 4 pillars of destruction of the UK monarchy are the British royal family, British media owners and their mouthpieces in their splinter groups, such as the Royal Rota and TV network key players. The government are at the top of this tree of power with their friends and relatives from the aristocracy. Media owners of newspaper and TV networks work hand in glove with the top tier to ensure consensus on how to shape the support of the country moving forward. The British royal family are the poster family for the UK, there to give an impression to the country and in times gone by to the world that they mattered and had a function that benefited the UK. The Royal Rota, media folk, carnival of so-called experts are the bottom tier, who believe that they are important and crucial to this whole game being played. Those in the bottom tier think that because they either played nursemaid to a member of the British royal family in tier 3, or put toothpaste on the toothbrushes each day of members of the royal family, or washed their underwear or cleaned their floors, etc., or had some input in producing magazines and books that were all about those in those 3 tiers above them, that they have managed to be indoctrinated to believe that they are almost blood relatives. It has given them a sense of importance that does not exist. And when the going gets rough, as it will in the next couple or so decades, the only people who will be used as cannon fodder will be those in that bottom tier. So, Rota crew, and the other minions in that group, you are all on borrowed time. Because if you think any of you are indispensable, think again. You all have invisible warning signs above your heads, but you cannot see them due to your arrogance. All you are doing is firing the bullets of those in the 3 tiers above you, and pretty soon you are going to run out of ammunition. When you are all exposed on the battlefield that you created at the behest of those giving orders from places of safety, keep this in mind. The Sussexes will be more than fine. The Sussexes will be living their humanitarian philanthropic life with no stress and away from the war created in the UK. History will document the contribution of the Sussexes to the global good, and all of you in that bottom tier will voluntarily have put themselves to die on the hill of saving those above you. So, who is irrelevant? It certainly is not Harry and Meghan, that is for sure. I woke up this morning to further rabid foaming at the mouth of those in that bottom tier. The indoctrinated, racist, prejudiced mob baiting their supporters out in the UK populace to do all manner of harm to the Sussexes, whether that be by notional titles that only matter to those in the shrinking glass bowl that the UK occupies, in the vast wider sane world outside of it, or risk to life and limb of the Sussexes. Once again, the UK has managed to turn the current pregnancy for the Sussexes into a toxic wasteland, with the aim of causing stress and an impact on the health and well-being of the Sussex family. Wicked beyond belief. The royal family is a company whose structure is there to ensure its survival. It has zero interest in having any impact, and the same applies for any type of meaningful measurement of any of their activities. Someone new entering into their protected environment made them feel uncomfortable. Without Meghan appearing on the scene, the firm would have continued in their arrogance and sense of entitlement. But they could continue as before, and that they could choose who could lead and when, just like changing a pair of shoes. No concept or interest in what they meant for the country, whether it was right for the country, whether anyone in that family was ever considered for their skill set to cover any function that they deemed to be work, in inverted commas, in their eyes, rather than the only criterion being the order one came into the world in comparison to your siblings. Meghan was seen as a threat because of her ethnicity and her intelligence and strong mind, with a complete denial of decades of behaviour and practice gone before. Poor Meghan took all their frustrations and nastiness that they threw at her. It pains me to think of what she endured behind closed doors. What we do know as fact, none of that family ever asked if she was all right. Every stunt and every article that is produced by the British press is toxic. And now it stands out for the comedic value it holds when compared to the reporting of the international press. The days are gone when only the UK tabloids were interested and commanded so much screen time. Now the international community see it for what it is, and worse than that, they view UK royalty very different to how they used to prior to Meghan joining, and now having left the family. In my humble opinion, the 3 decades before Meghan arrived was where the rot set in, and their racism and misogyny reared its head because, for the second time, the firm were confronted by a woman with independent thought, Princess Diana being the first woman in that family with independent thought, and who had achieved more academically and in global projects with global iconic organisations than the whole of the royal family combined. Royal reporters went out of their way to spoil the first pregnancy of the Sussexes. Archie is very lucky to be here. No doubt in my mind that the vilification of Meghan, once the Sussexes moved to the USA, increased in the most sinister and insidious ways. A stain on the UK and its treatment of Meghan, despite it being the Sussexes who left the UK, not Meghan on her own, as was the intention by the British royal family and royal reporters all along. History books will record this wicked activity, and Meghanpedia, who fact-check everything and who keep a huge database of receipts, will contribute to that history. During this continuing onslaught, the Sussexes announced that they had sadly experienced a miscarriage in 2020. On a personal note, I hand on heart blame UK media for contributing wholly or for the most part in that miscarriage. The venom that poured from their mouths and keyboards daily opened up global networks for the first time to see just how low the UK had sunk in its quest to look down on anyone who does not meet their standard, and the daily dehumanisation of Meghan and her first baby, and the impact of this continued tirade against the only member of the royal family to be scrutinised this way, I am sure had an adverse impact on her health. May they hold their heads in shame, and karma find and deal with them proportionately. We now have the news of another pregnancy, and instead of people finding it within themselves to be civil or quiet, the same players came out from under their stones, spitting venom over anything that they could find to say. Newspaper filled with hate-baiting nonsense, and the comment sections left open like an open-mouthed lion waiting to be fed. Harry and Meghan chose to release a photograph of the couple in the gardens of their home in California, on the same day that Diana and her then-husband announced that she was pregnant with her second child, who would turn out to be Harry. The announcement was made on Valentine's Day, a day of love, but you would not know that from UK media publications. They were mad, mad, mad again. Rolling of my eyes. The Sussexes used a UK-based photographer, but not anyone from the Royal Rota. As per the statement made by Harry that they would no longer use the Royal Rota from April 2020, as they were independent and non-working senior royals. Well, the Royal Rota clowns were incandescent with rage, just like a person they hold court with on a regular basis, because this beautiful photo came close on the back of the huge loss for the Daily Mail in a recent court case. To add salt to their wounds, the image was copyrighted, so could not be used for making their huge sums, like in the past. And all of the USA networks had several hours to run with the story before the UK had woken up. Joy to my heart. Karma playing shade with the Rota. There was a silver lining, though. The Rota crew managed to find a new addition to the carnival of so-called experts who pontificated on Harry's feet and commented on a possible bunion and discussed it in various possibilities of its cause. Such crucial information also found its way to the tabloids. Clearly, there was no other member of the British royal family that had any activity worth reporting on. So the one half of the duo that the royal reporters have no responsibility for and receive no element of payment in their wages to pursue, considered it newsworthy to be paid for and to add to the expenses bill to pay for a new clown who is apparently an expert on bunions. My, oh my, how the mighty have fallen. International press teams, do any of your teams, write about or seek out experts in such matters, and also have a panel discussion about it, for which they all receive a payment? No, I thought not. This is the UK post-Brexit. The younger generation will ensure that this farce does not continue for decades to come, and that money can be better spent in England. Not least, it will cease to be the UK, the way it is going, to help people affected by poverty. This does the monarchy and its pals in the media no favours, and newspaper barons and its regular meeting with the government officials in the UK will become less and less frequent. Increasing numbers of the people are realising what is going on here, and despite all the media, who will no doubt state in the future that Meghan and Harry, but mainly Meghan, will be to blame for the demise of the monarchy. History books will have an abundance of evidence to the contrary. The monarchy and its partners in crime lacked the ability to read the room. They behaved like crabs in a bucket, jumping and crawling over each other, and never took the time to stop and listen to whether or not the tide was going out or coming in. Destruction self-inflicted because of arrogance and the inability to seek to change their ways. As a result, all four pillars of this group, formed to look after the preservation of each other, will fail in their isolationist approach. Bullying is never acceptable, People have died in the UK because of one or more of these groups' actions. The Sussexes no longer live in the UK and have continued to rise and helping many global causes in tangible, measurable ways. The four pillars at the top of the aristocracy layer cannot say the same. There are various types of abuse, but the two main categories which have been inflicted upon the Sussexes, mainly Meghan, over the last 4 years and is still ongoing, is psychological abuse and discriminatory abuse. Psychological abuse results in a person feeling worthless, unloved or uncared for. It includes emotional abuse, threats of harm or abandonment, deprivation of contact, humiliation, blaming, controlling, intimidation, coercion, harassment, verbal abuse, cyberbullying, isolation, or unreasonable and unjustified withdrawal of services or supportive networks. Discriminatory abuse refers to an individual or group being treated unequally because of characteristics identified in the Equality Act 2010. It involves ignoring a person's values, beliefs, and culture, and includes forms of harassment, slurs, or similar treatment because of race, gender, and gender identity, age, disability, sexual orientation, or religion. What an indictment on the UK and its four pillars at the top of society, because if you go through that list, 99.9% of them have been applied to the Sussexes, Meghan in particular, over and over and over again. What more do I need to say on that front? It is an absolute disgrace. Abuse takes place in organisational settings as well as in families, in fact, in any form of group. So just think of the Sussexes as being a member of the firm in terms of structure, being part of what is deemed to be a family, and being part of a group of people who from the start set out to destroy you in any way that they could. Shameful. It is exhausting to have to interact with this type of person or people. Victims are usually advised to put distance between such people or group because they are deemed toxic relationships. Did the Sussexes manage to escape at the right time? Was the decision to prevent the Sussexes from performing royal duties for free the right one? What were the implications for the current business model in place? I personally believe Sussexes have the right idea, but as that was seemingly viewed as a threat to the current way of life for the royal family, I am glad that they are out of it now and are free to pursue humanitarian projects outside of the public purse. That was the main excuse for the constant criticism of their affairs. No one else was questioned at all, let alone to that degree. And now that Sussexes have taken that away and left the royal family, the same people who were unhappy are still unhappy now and trying to criticise them for setting up deals to finance their projects. basically confirms that all the haters have another reason for criticising the Duchess. Now, the royal family and their insecurities have been exposed, and they have lost the benefit of having the Sussexes in their structure. The clear link between the palaces and the media and the hateful activity around the Duchess is becoming more apparent by the day, and much of it was confirmed in the recent court case in the documentation that came from it. It is amusing for supporters of the Sussexes to sit back and watch the predicted hate-baiting activity of those who believe that they matter to the tiers above them. Comical, in fact, albeit exhausting, to constantly read the rhetoric and the hate-filled tales. Sussex Squad can predict almost to the hour when each phase will go into activate mode. This latest over the last 24 hours is purely based on the news that Harry and Meghan will be interviewed by Oprah, and it will show on USA networks in March 2021. I have my own views on what Harry and Meghan will or will not be discussing on camera with Oprah. But for a group who claim to have done nothing but welcome Meghan with open arms into that family, they do seem to be acting like people connected to a power supply. The amount of jumping about and foaming, white foam at that, seems apt at the mouth they are doing, and giving themselves regular aneurysms or some kind of orgasmic pleasure every hour or so, displaying high levels of emotional turmoil about what may be discussed on said programme, is over the top and just pushes Shutter Island further into the mode of carnival of so-called experts on laughing gas. It is so comical and embarrassing at the same time, particularly when those same people say they did nothing but good. So what are they concerned about? What could they possibly think will be discussed or mentioned briefly in a TV programme next month? These are people who said they've only done wonderful things. Why then are they going into throes of orgasmic pleasure over it, or rather orgasmic concern and fear over it? Either way, it's comical and funny to watch. For a group of people who claim to have done nothing but welcoming Meghan into the fold, and despite, as I said, court documents stating otherwise, and blanket daily coverage of nastiness and all the isms out there, the evidence tells its own story, just as history will too. Despite being told to leave the UK and go back to her own country, the baying mob are still not happy. They have lost their largest payout bank in their history. They have lost their guaranteed first chance of work with and writing about this fabulous couple. Now they have zero opportunity. The international community welcomes the Sussexes and are queuing up to work with them, and all that the four groups are doing by allowing this behaviour to continue is ensuring that the UK will receive the isolation it craved for in 2016. This is the same international community that the UK hopes to strike trade deals with. Good luck with those. At the top of this comedy store of crabs in a bucket is the elected government of the UK. Your silence in this evil fiasco being played out on the world stage is beyond shameful. I know that discussions take place behind closed doors involving all four groups. The number of occasions that government officials have met with at least one newspaper owner that is documented is worrying. Never mind the occasions that have not been documented. This means that ultimately, any fallout from this mistreatment of the Sussexes will be on your heads, and the outcome will be reflected in future ballot boxes. The other three groups will not be enough to save you. Abusive behaviour on this scale, one that the global community is witnessing daily, is harmful to what is left of the UK's reputation. It is harmful to the mental health of the nation. This is an unnecessary layer of mental abuse being inflicted on people at a time of a global pandemic, and the fallout from how that has been handled. Meghan and Harry have left the UK as demanded by the racists from within those four groups at the top. Every day, as each demand is met in some way, the baying group come out with another demand. Be careful for what you wish for, as any action against the Sussexes, who have done nothing wrong, will have legal implications for other members of those four groups who have done many things that are questionable in a court of law in most countries. The scenes over the last 24 hours and so far this morning are shameful and a major red flag over any civilized society, let alone a nation. Once again, I ask, England, are you okay? The lights on your life support system are going out one by one. I think it apt to end this podcast with the words of the Invictus movement. It sums up the Sussexes family completely and all that it stands for. Out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how strait the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. Written by William Ernest Henley. Ivy signing off for now. Bye.